find the True Life cameras and a true life adventure with the Olympic Elk. Now, here is your host, Walt Disney.
From time to time on our Adventureland program, it's been our custom to go out into the field and watch our naturalist cameramen in action. Now, these are the men who photograph the nature stories that we call true life adventures. You're liable to meet a true life adventure crew almost anywhere in the world. Australia, Samoa, Japan, and in Alaska and the Yukon Territory, there are several crews covering the wildlife of this region for our true life adventure, the Arctic Wilderness. For each assignment, there's a different problem, and often the scenes behind the camera are just as interesting as the ones before it. And here now to tell you some of the inside stories of the great outdoors is the writer-director of the True Life series, James Alger.
One of the most persistent problems facing the True Life adventure cameraman is nature's timetable. He must know exactly when the butterfly will emerge from its chrysalis, where the wildfowl will lay their eggs. In fact, he must not only know when and where things are apt to happen, but he must manage to be there when they do. Now, this wouldn't appear too difficult when the place he's heading for is only a few miles from a large city like Miami, Florida. But just beyond the suburbs of this metropolis lies a vast water wilderness, the Florida Everglades. Unchanged through countless centuries, this primeval swamp is the hiding place for many of nature's most ancient secrets. To explore these mysteries for our feature, Secrets of Life, the True Life cameras must be carried deep into the heart of the Everglades. And this calls for an airboat, a unique combination of floating and flying. This crazy contraption consists of a pontoon, a propeller, and a pilot. It will travel through almost anything from deep water to slick mud, which makes it ideal for use in the marshy Everglades, where the water is often miles wide and an inch deep. The Andersons, Claire, and her naturalist photographer husband, Bill, are veteran airboaters. To them, this wild ride through a land that time forgot is a matter of daily routine. Bill's setting up his camera now to give us an idea of what the Everglades look like, coming at us 60 miles an hour. This great swamp spreads out over several thousand square miles, and the primitive heart of the Everglades is a protected area, a national park and wildlife sanctuary. Today, it remains completely untouched by civilization. To Bill Anderson, the trackless maze of weeds and water is a familiar place, for his camera has peered into the homes of many of the marsh dwellers. And when he comes upon a bit of floating grass, he knows this is the hidden nest of Mrs. Grebe, a fish-eating bird who seems to have gone fishing for the day. Bill has been checking this nest periodically, and he's always ready to record any change in the Grebe's domestic affairs. This may be the day for the eggs to hatch. But this is expecting a little too much, so the Andersons carefully leave things as they found them and push deeper into the Everglades. The airboat runs at its best, not in water alone, but over a slippery surface of wet reeds pressed down by its passage. And whenever it gets going full clip, the residents of the swamp hastily concede the right-of-way. All this speed has been for the purpose of keeping a special appointment. And so this time, Bill passes up many likely camera subjects. A flotilla of pelicans. The blue heron, a feathered spear fisherman without equal. Even the roseate spoonbills will go unnoticed today. For if Bill's timing is right, One of the smaller marsh dwellers is just about ready to play out his role for our feature production, Secrets of Life. For some time, the Andersons have kept a close tab on this particular clump of marsh grass and on some tiny eggs laid here by a moth with the rather impressive name of Siboney stimulia. This time, their luck holds. The eggs have hatched on schedule, and the result is an unusual and colorful caterpillar known as the saddleback. Unlike most caterpillars, the saddleback has no legs, so the question is, how does he move? Well, here's how the Andersons go about revealing one of nature's secrets. First, a pair of tweezers to handle this fellow. His spines carry a toxic poison that can be discouragingly painful. Then, a pane of ordinary glass. And seen from underneath, it's clear that the saddleback moves with an undulating body motion similar to slugs and snails. When the Andersons have recorded this little-known fact, they carefully return their subject to his island of marsh grass because they have future plans for him. He still has to go through the chrysalis stage, and from that he will emerge as a moth to begin the cycle all over again. With one of the marshland's mysteries revealed and filmed, Bill and Claire might well consider their day's work done. But their search will go on, deep in the remote reaches of this vast swamp. For in these hidden places are concealed many miracles, nature's secrets of life. Most of us picture the desert country of the Southwest as an arid wasteland of sagebrush and superheated sand. On the surface, this doesn't appear to be the sort of place where you'd find a busy, bustling community of farmers. Well, on the surface, it isn't. But appearances can be deceiving. So now we're going to dig a little deeper into the subject, or at least Bob Crandall is. Bob is another of our naturalist photographers, and the farmers here are a colony of leafcutter ants. Their story will play an important part in Secrets of Life. Right now, Bob is about to uncover some of their elaborate underground gardens. It looks like he's a bit over-equipped for the job, but the leafcutters raise their crops as much as 18 feet underground. And so this heavy equipment is not only helpful, it's necessary. Under Bob's supervision, the power shovel scoops up the dirt a shallow layer at a time. Although the machinery is ponderous, the operation must be delicate and exacting. One false move could seal up minute passageways, destroy the tiny leaf gardens of the underground world. Bob Crandall came out of the University of Arizona with a Bachelor of Science degree, and he's become a recognized authority in the field of entomology. He discovered very early that one of the best tools for prying into the private lives of insects was the motion picture camera, and he himself developed several new and effective camera techniques. Bob finds his careful engineering has paid off. The power shovel has uncovered some miniature caverns far below the surface. To the casual eye, these look like no more than a couple of holes in the ground. But seen through the special lens of Bob's True Life camera, they become the quarter-section farms of the leafcutter ants. This ant colony lives on a diet of fungus, and they grow their own. It's a complicated process that begins with the gathering of leaves. In a perfectly organized community operation, each ant carries out an assigned task. Of course, just who decides the assignments and gives the orders isn't known. But each individual does have a responsibility, and he performs only his own job. Many work above ground, cutting leaves from a great variety of shrubs and plants. A constant supply of this raw material is needed. In just a few hours, the foragers must carry in a staggering amount of leaves. Meanwhile, other workers are busy chewing the leaf harvest into a paste, and then it's hung on the walls and ceilings of the underground rooms. In a short time, the material begins to mildew, in turn producing a mushroom type of fungus, the sole food of the leafcutter ants. In these curious hanging gardens, it's the duty of the caretakers to keep the growing fungus properly trimmed and to weed out undesirable types of growth. It's an odd fact that these subterranean gardeners have the ability to arrest the growth of the mold at what they consider its most palatable point, and they can maintain it in this state for indefinite periods. Stranger still, when the ants decide to abandon a garden, normal growth resumes, and soon mold takes over the tiny cellar. In nature's world, there are many mysteries that may never be explained, yet they can be exposed. And through the True Life cameras, we see nature at work and view, as never before, her innermost secrets of life. Often our naturalist photographers film the true life adventures in areas completely isolated from civilization. Al and Elma Malott, for instance, spent nearly 3 years in the African bush country, filming the story of the African lion. Now, of course, to tell all the story behind their true life cameras would take, well, nearly 3 years. So I'm going to recall just a few of the highlights. In the heart of the dark continent, Mount Kilimanjaro rises 19,000 feet into the African sky. Here in the shadow of this majestic peak lies the realm of the African lion, king of beasts. The lion's subjects are the restless grazing herds that roam far and wide across the limitless plains. This photographer's paradise was the happy hunting ground of Al and Elma Malott. Each day they would plan the area to be covered and then take off in their combination camera truck, home, and mobile blind. Early in their adventure, they came upon the African elephant, an exciting moment for a naturalist photographer. These are the largest of all the land-dwelling mammals, and they have a chapter all their own in our motion picture, The African Lion. With his true life camera, Al Malott recorded many interesting and little-known facts about the ponderous pachyderms. These modern mammoths have no natural enemies. Their great size and their habit of traveling in herds provides protection for the young. So, aside from an occasional pitfall, the youngsters lead a carefree existence. The young of most species are naturally playful, and a baby elephant is no exception. He gets a childish pleasure out of chasing the egrets that often follow the elephants. These birds are attracted by the insects the herd stirs up as it moves through the grass. This youngster may be big stuff among his feathered friends, but when the herd moves on, he's just another tiny toddler. In their travels, the Malotts came upon another grass eater that's rarely molested, even by the king of beasts, the African buffalo. A pair of horns that often spread 4 feet across, and a completely unpredictable disposition make him one of the most dangerous of African animals. During the dry season, all species tend to gather near water holes. So when the mulatts found a trickle of water in a stream bed, it seemed a lead worth following. Where the trickle spread out into a shallow mud-rimmed pool, Al found signs of many animals. The tracks, all coming from the same general direction, indicated a concentration of wildlife somewhere nearby. Al had read the sign right, for presently a tremendous herd of wildebeest poured through the trees surrounding the waterhole. A species of antelope, these cow-like creatures are a favorite prey of the African lion. Backtracking along their trail, our one-couple safari rumbled past a flock of African vultures. These scavengers live on the bounty of the king of beasts. Their presence is a sure sign that lions are somewhere very close. Peering into the private life of a lion with a motion picture camera requires skill, courage, and infinite patience. For 3 years, the mulatts literally lived with the lions. In fact, the camera truck became such a familiar sight in lion country, the big cats grew quite accustomed to it, and soon resumed the normal pattern of their daily lives. It was then that Al Mulat got his True Life camera rolling to film all the intimate details of a lion's home life. It's scenes such as these that make our motion picture, The African Lion, a unique film document, entirely true, completely unstaged. In it, we are privileged to see the African lion as he really is, and as he has never been seen before. Lions love to play, but their games are patterned after the serious business of hunting, and even in fun, the lunge for the throat is instinctive. Being true cats, the lions haven't forgotten how to climb. But when a lion takes to a tree, it's generally only for the view. A family of lions is called a pride. It includes all the members of several generations, and for the most part, they're just one big happy family. But there are exceptions. A strange lioness has no place in the inner circle. And Al Mulat captured this notable sequence for our African lion feature when an outsider wandered in from another territory. And where was her own lion-hearted mate when the fur began to fly? Well, he was dutifully holding down the shade at home, cool, calm, collected, and comfortable. But when the real head of the royal household limps home, she's in no mood to share the shade, and says so in no uncertain terms. The youngsters know who's boss, too. They side with Mother every time. At the height of the dry season, the mulatts came upon one of Africa's most dramatic spectacles. This time of year, hot tropical winds whirl the powdery topsoil high into the air in twisting columns called dust devils. They merge, grow, and gain in strength. Soon, great dust storms sweep across the parched plains. The few remaining water holes dry up and disappear, and the grazing herds now must begin a long trek in search of new watering places. They move blindly, guided only by the instinct that tells them somewhere beyond the horizon lies water and relief from the drifting dust. This great exodus of animals is only one of the many exciting and colorful chapters in our true life motion picture, The African Lion. Strangely, the king of beasts must join this mass migration too, for the grazing herds are his staff of life, and where they go, he must follow. And so the lion is both a slave and a king, just as the lion's realm, so vast and varied, is at once the setting and the substance of his story. A story of limitless plains and wildlife in countless numbers. A story of life and death in the shadow of Kilimanjaro. Indeed, the story of the African lion is the story of Africa itself.
From the stories behind the cameras to the ones in front of them is just a matter of a few steps. Now it's time for us to make the move. So here to take us on another journey into the wonderland of nature is our true life adventure narrator, Winston Hibbler.
Early in the history of the United States, as civilization swept out of the east across North America, the frontiers of the wilderness retreated steadily to the west. Until today, one of nature's last strongholds is the Olympic Peninsula, here in the northwest corner of the continent. This is the home of the Olympic elk, a species of animal found nowhere else in the world. Each spring, these majestic animals migrate from their winter home in the lowlands to their summer grazing grounds high among the topmost peaks. The lonely champion is the last to leave. Next year, older and wiser, he'll leave the fighting to the impulsive youngsters. With his departure, a cycle in the life of the Olympic elk comes to a close, and with it, another true life adventure.